Welcome to the Halcyon podcast. I'm your host as always, Lorne Risley, and welcome back to a new edition. So much to talk about, so much going on in the world of sport, wrestling, gaming, yada yada yada. Let's get straight to it, shall we? WrestleMania. Let's get that one out of the way nice and early. It was a pretty good show. Just watched it back again for a second time, and interesting retrospectively comparing and contrasting to my original predictions. Match of the night, match of the show. It was contested, for my opinion, between two matches: Finn Balor, The Miz, and Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental Championship. Was a great match. I think we all figured it would be. Delivered, in my opinion. Matches that under-delivered. Clearly, AJ Shinsuke wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. At least in my opinion, I think it was a particularly good match. Charlotte versus Asuka was a great match. I don't necessarily think it's in contention with the best. I think Balor, Miz, and Rollins was just slightly better in terms of how athletic it was. I guess storytelling-wise, it wasn't as great going in terms of the angles going in, because they just needed something for all three of them to do. But at the same time, Asuka losing her undefeated streak will only become more prevalent as to why they chose that in time. But at the moment, it kind of feels a little bit odd feeding that streak to Charlotte when she didn't really need it. Maybe recovering the title would have made the chase a bit more better in terms of payoff. But the match of the night for me was Rousey, Kurt Angle, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. Overbooked to shit. Do not get me wrong. Just finish after finish after finish, passed over. But you can't argue the storytelling aspect was great. Just that's the formula for Ronda going forward. Just let her be a mean motherfucker. Let her go out and take on people. Enough of this smiley bullshit. I still think the gimmick is going to wear thin relatively quick. I think the fans are going to start to tire of her after a while, because fans do that. So you got to give her own gimmick. You got to let her be her own thing. Be a heel, be a face, whatever. Just let her be her own thing. But the match itself, she seemed to perform pretty well. Triple H and Stephanie sold the way they should have sold for her. Kurt Angle has an understated role in that match, considering that he was supposed to feed for the hot tag to Ronda at some stage, and he did a magnificent job. I'm staggered that not more people are talking about his performance in the match. But that was match of the night for me, easily. It was a great match. Some great spots. The Triple H defending the punches was a bit cartoonish, but again, in that situation, what are you meant to do? You know, you just sort of sell as best you can. But like I say, the prevailing thing is, of course, Ronda Rousey, her performance, how well she carried herself, how often she was in situations you wouldn't expect her to excel in, and she pulled off some smooth moves. She didn't once hesitate from what I could see. There were some spots where she could have fucked up, but didn't. I think all round, very impressive. But the thing that killed the show, and the reason why I think the show won't be remembered as fondly, even despite its good quality, there's two things actually. Number one, 2 words, midget pancakes. I'm not sure who thought that was a good idea, or rather who thought that that was going to be something that translated into something that was even remotely passable as a good idea. But yeah, little people walking around in pancake suits. I don't know what I'm still trying to figure that one out. And the Roman match, because it's got to be, it has to be done now. It has to be. This stupid ass experiment that I don't know who's buying his merchandise, unless of course WWE are sending people out and buying the merchandise themselves. It doesn't make any sense to me why they keep pushing him, considering the crowd reaction is so adversely bad. It's terrible. It is what it is. I mean, I think broadly speaking, the match was performed well. You can't argue with the brutality of the match, but just the booking of it. 5 F5s? Really? No one kicks out of a single F5 for a year? And it's not a question of the match being about Lesnar trying to execute the F5. It's no, he hits 5 of them, and Roman still kicks out. He has to put him through a table, then take his gloves off, then batter him, then F5 him after cutting off a comeback. It just seemed to make no sense to me, and I think the prevailing opinion at the moment is that he's going to win the title at the greatest Royal Rumble or the grandest Royal Rumble, whatever it is in the Middle East, which is happening very, very soon. A lot of chopping and changing on that card by the looks of things, but anyway, we'll get to that in just a second. But yeah, the fact that Roman Reigns, his performances are the thing is, you watch him in his match, and he's actually a really good wrestler. The way he sells, the way he pitches, it's just his moveset, his gimmick, his music, the way he's presented to people is all wrong. It's all wrong. He's not over. He never got over to be in this position in the first place, and yet he's being pushed in this position as if people will be... It's 4 or 5 years now. It's getting stupid on our parts because we're all still watching. We're all still watching, so we're all guilty of helping propagate this guy. But the fact that there was a rumor going in that Heyman was going to turn on Lesnar, Heyman was going to manage Reigns going forward with Lesnar going away as a heel. Man, that had greatness written all over it. A Roman Reigns heel turn at WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, with Paul Heyman leading the charge, being the mouthpiece for a heel Reigns. Come on now, come on. Yeah, everyone could see that was a great idea, and it was handed to them on a plate. But what are you going to do? Roman Reigns still lost, which was shocking to a lot of people, as it turned out that Brock Lesnar had signed a short-term contract after the fact, which may still mean his intention is to compete in the UFC, but he still has to get in the drug testing pool, which will take him at least 6 to 12 months to clear, because he's got to be tested out of competition as well as leading up to a fight. He can't just jump in now. And with the John Jones thing coinciding, maybe they're happy to sit on Lesnar for a year. I don't know, because they might contest Jones's decision, which might get him less time. I think even if he's guilty but not, there was no intent, I think the minimum is 2 years, unless they can argue the point to make it a year backdated. So he's been serving his suspension since the point of his last fight. For me, if you want to have Lesnar versus Jones, you can, but the problem with that, for my opinion, and we're deviating away from wrestling a little bit here, is that you've still not resolved the Cormier-Jones rivalry. Cormier still has a legitimate right to call himself the light heavyweight champion of the world, and John Jones is back, having been suspended. They should really be having a rematch, not only for the fans, because I think the fans would be really interested in seeing that fight play out again, but for DC. DC's earned the right for closure on his situation. I think he's got the right to retire on his terms, and I think that's the fight he'd want to take. And Lesnar jumping the queue, I get, makes sense from a marketing perspective, because it's a huge fight, but Lesnar will lose. No offense, I know he outweighs Jones by 20, 30 pounds, conservatively walking around, but still, it's interesting to see that DC seems to have been sort of sidelined, even though he's the one now carrying the light heavyweight division. He's fighting Stipe Miocic very, very soon in a fight that's going to be absolutely fantastic. 2 technical guys who are underrated and understated in their respective fields. I look forward to that fight, and I wonder where Brock Lesnar fits into that. But as far as it pertains to wrestling, the consensus is that he'll be dropping the belt at the greatest Royal Rumble to pop ratings and to help make that event a success, so they can make more money there, considering that the India tour didn't pan out anywhere near as well as they thought it was going to, and they've pulled out, and Jinder's now US champion, which is, again, a weird one for me. It made way more sense to put the belt on Rusev and let him be a babyface champion for a while, and let him get some of the shine of the Rusev Day chance, because that will burn out. People will sour on it sooner or later if they keep jobbing him out. Which brings me back to the news is that Undertaker was set to take on Rusev. Rusev's now been pulled from that fight, from that match in lieu of Chris Jericho, which is a great match, but it kind of, yeah, I guess. But Rusev getting the shine against the Undertaker would have been nice. He wasn't going to beat the Undertaker. I think that was clearly going to happen, but yeah, it's just a shame all round. Anyway, that wraps up wrestling talk. Let's talk about football. Arsenal just lost 2-1 and drew 2-2 in the space of a week to CSK Moscow and Newcastle United. At this point, we are just sprinting for that Europa League final finishing line. when all of a sudden we get slapped with Atletico Madrid, because of course we do. That tie is going to depend entirely on our home leg, because Atletico will come to nick a goal. We can't defend to save our lives, so it depends on how much firepower we bring in the away leg. If they nick a goal, fine, I guess, so long as we nick one back and then we come out all guns blazing in the away leg. I don't know who's playing at home or away first. I just know that from an Arsenal perspective, this was the worst possible fixture we could have picked, especially in a week where Liverpool have beaten City, and now, technically speaking, I think the bookies have made them favourites at one point, but I think the smart money's still on someone like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich to win it. I just think that they have the pedigree to do it. Roma is a good tie for Liverpool in terms of team. It was either them or Juventus that I thought Liverpool should face in the next round, considering their pace, their finesse in front of goal, their ability to score goals. And obviously Juventus have more firepower than Roma. I think it could be fairly stated, but at the same time, Roma, they're a European force for a reason. I worry though for Arsenal because, and I'm just going to take a swig of beer for the working man. Just 1 second, people. So that's why I have music on in the background, so you don't have any quick insight into the making of Halcyon. That's why you have music in the background, so it keeps a sense of continuity for the show. Anyway, back on topic. I do worry for Arsenal because at this point, you're still talking a couple of £100 million in terms of refinancing for that team to be where they need to be. I mean, firepower-wise, I think we're okay. It's just in those times when we need to be able to rely on our defence, we can't do it. And I think it's a shame because I think there's enough there to work with, and it comes back again to this same old discussion. Wenger, when will he go? When will he make a change? When will he just do something? I mean, it's stunning to me. It's really amazing, the inconsistency of our form. We do CSK Moscow 4-1 1 week, and then the next we're drawing with them 2-2, behind 2-0 for a lot of the game. And Newcastle United 2-1 against a team that, with all due respect, is just thinking about not getting relegated this season. Had no money spent on the team. Has a manager that wants to be there but has higher aspirations for other clubs. It's a worrying time to be an Arsenal fan because you just don't know whether or not you're coming or going. And Arsenal fans, I think, would just want to see some consistency at this point. If we lose to the top 6, I think we could understand and appreciate that maybe we're not quite on their level. But the fact that we can beat them sometimes, and the fact that we then lose to teams we shouldn't be losing to, it just speaks to one of two things. Either the players just have a lack of consistency, which, you can coach to a degree, but ultimately is down to them, or tactically the manager's got his boots on the wrong feet more often than not. So, as an Arsenal fan, it saddens me that we're still not over this weird little inconsistent patch. And if Wenger decides to stay on for next season, which I think for all intents and purposes, I think it's all well, he's not walking away anytime soon, and the club aren't going to sack him. No amount of protests from the fans is going to do anything. I think the last 2 or 3 years, specifically when fan anger has reached a peak, has proven that. Yeah, we're just saying the same talking points over and over again, which is Wenger. I think it's over. I think it's done. And I made a podcast not too long ago defending him and saying, well, who else would you get? At this point, though, I think anyone else you get would get you the same results. At the very least, it'd get you the same results. You're not looking at getting relegated. We're finishing just above mid-table. We might walk away with the Europa, but otherwise, we're not walking away with any trophies this season. No qualification for the Champions League otherwise. We've made some good signings, but I think you can understand that the transfer policy has been absolutely abject the last couple of years. Letting Sanchez and Ozil potentially walk away on a free is frankly laughable, and the fact that we got through the transfer window as best we did is a testament not only to how Man United must have been feeling about getting Sanchez through the door over City, and it's just a worrying time to be an Arsenal fan. And like I say, in transfer windows, I usually say the same thing, which is get us a decent centre-back, change the goalkeeping position, because Cech is not going to be around forever. He's 35 or 36, so you've got to be looking at the rear-view mirror as far as his career is concerned. You've got all the fucking firepower in the world now. Just get that back line sorted out. Make sure you're not conceding goals and let the guys do what they can up front. And then, unfortunately, you're left with only one thing, and that is the manager. You can't question the goal-scoring prowess of Lacazette, Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, Mesut Ozil, Aaron Ramsey, Jack Wilshere. The list goes on and on of top-quality creative players who are putting in good performances but just tactically look weird. Granit Xhaka comes to the club, potential captain material in years to come, and he is looking abject again at times. So, again, as an Arsenal fan, you just got to press on. Let's move on now to boxing. Tyson Fury is back in the frame. He has a fight announced in the coming months. Anthony Joshua looks like he's going to be ordered to fight a mandatory, so we're not going to get the Wilder fight anytime soon, especially considering that Wilder is looking like he is going to be asking for, if not the lion's share of the purse, a significant chunk of change, which I understand from his perspective. He's an undefeated world champion. He's been knocking people out left, right and centre, and to his mind he's got a persona and a market value that he feels he needs to be compensated for. However, we've got to break some news to Mr. Wilder, and that is this. He cannot draw outside of his own state, let alone his own country. So the fact that he's saying to Anthony Joshua, who is, again, he's not fought too many times outside of his own country. And I don't even think you can count Wales, so let's say it. He's not fought outside of his country. But let's all be honest. If he went to Russia and fought Vladimir Klitschko there, that would get buys. If he went to America and fought Deontay Wilder there, it would get buys. So the fact that Anthony Joshua is, in my mind, a more proven commodity. He's a more bankable face. He's got a better story. He's got a better record. If you want my honest opinion, the Ortiz fight, fair enough. Deontay Wilder, he knocked him out, or he beat him. I forget, it might have been a technical TKO in one of the final rounds. But you're fighting a guy who's been proven to be on the juice. So he's lost all of his credibility. He's not the Cuban undefeated destroyer that everyone's avoiding, that everyone is. No, it's because he's on the juice. Because everyone knows he's roiding. So, Wilder, I think, will put the pins in this for now. Wait for it down the line. The fight I do want to see, though, Wilder is, and I said this in a recent podcast, I want it to be Wilder first, then White, and then Fury. It's looking more and more like it will be White first, then Wilder, and then Fury. But then, even then, it may be a case that Wilder's the last fight. That may be the thing. It may be a case of whoever gets through Anthony Joshua and Fury, whoever wins out of those two then goes on to fight Wilder. In which case, the Undisputed Championship it's coming, people. I really think it's coming. The time where we will see the next Undisputed Heavyweight Champion of the world, it's coming, and it's odds on it's going to be someone British. If it ain't Dillian Whyte, it's going to be Anthony Joshua. If it ain't Anthony Joshua, it'll be Tyson Fury, which is a great time to be a British boxing fan, all things considered. But again, I stand by my original prediction. If Tyson Fury if Tyson Fury fights Anthony Joshua, that'll be the toughest fight Joshua's ever had. He thought Klitschko was tough. Fury beat Klitschko, younger Klitschko as well, by about 6 months. Outboxed him. It wasn't even close. It was a decision, yes, but it wasn't close in terms of a boxing masterclass from Tyson Fury. But yes, boxing is looking up. MMA, obviously the Conor McGregor controversy, it's kind of come and gone now because he's paid his bond. It wasn't that much. I think it was about $50,000 and he's out and about now. I think the trial date is somewhere in June. I think it's only a few misdemeanors. It's not actually anything that he would face any jail time for, which potentially also means he wouldn't face any expulsion from the country. But it shows you what kind of a nasty bastard that Conor McGregor is, that he would fly 7 hours across the world, put a fucking chair or whatever it is through a window, potentially ruining some people's careers, because that glass, that's a career killer potentially. Just to either incite a fight between him and Khabib Nurmagomedov, or to try to scare Khabib Nurmagomedov, because he presents potentially what is one of the biggest challenges of his career. And that's saying something for a guy that's fought Floyd Mayweather. I'd be interested in seeing that fight. I don't know a tremendous amount about Khabib, but now he's a world champion, you'll be seeing more and more of him. Personally, again, I'm more excited to see Stipe versus DC. McGregor, he will fight at some stage in 2018, I think. At some stage, it just depends on the opponent and the level of pay that's going to be involved, whether or not it's Khabib in Russia, because I think that would make a lot of money. So yeah, UFC and boxing, you know, they're looking like they're melding. Floyd isn't going to fight, but again, there's a lot of talk about him fighting potentially CM Punk after he gets through his next opponent, which again has been announced very, very soon. I forget the name, but CM Punk is slated to fight again. If he does a little bit better, maybe even wins, then maybe that's the fight for Floyd in the next one, because it's got enough marquee value and the experience level is where it needs to be for Floyd to have a decent outing as an MMA fighter. So let's turn it to gaming. Let's talk to gaming. I never talk about gaming on my podcast, even though it's a massive part of my channel. What games can you expect to see me reviewing soon? Well, I'm going to be doing a lot of retro reviews of games that have been out for a while, because they're games that I've played extensively, have some thoughts on, want to review, yada yada yada. But the newer games, I should say, not new because they're not new. 2 games. Number 1. Titanfall 2. Didn't play the original Titanfall, but I hear Titanfall 2 is a improvement in terms of its story and some of its gameplay mechanics. So of course, you jump in for the sequel once the hype has all died down, and you get hopefully a better game for your money. But we'll see if that's true or not. Hoping it is, but I haven't played a second of it yet, because I'm playing something else at the moment. Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, the Mass Effect trilogy video that I did is my most popular video ever. It's done over 1,000 views. I'm super proud of it, even though the quality is terrible. But the writing of the writing of the show I felt was good. I felt it was a decent show. Yeah, Andromeda so far. Initial thoughts. Good game. Glitchy, yes. I don't like Ryder as a character because he just doesn't. He feels like the baby. I wanted to play his dad. To be perfectly honest, he felt more like my Revan character from Mass Effect as Shepard. Like, he felt like a daddy. He felt like the fucking man. I feel like the boy following in the man's footsteps, and I'm not completely cool with that, but you know, whatever. Graphically, it seems to be a slight improvement on the third game. The lip syncing is absolutely awful, but the gameplay mechanics seem to be more have a bit more depth. The exploration has been expanded upon, which I love that element of it. And it should be an improvement. You can expect a review on that hopefully in the coming weeks. But at the moment, I'm working on a few reviews, like I said, that are more retro in feel. There'll be a couple of blinks coming your way as well as this podcast. So hopefully you've got those to look forward to as well. I hope to see more of you tuning in if I can get more content out the door. I've been advised by a few people recently that yes, my content hasn't been coming as thoroughly as it once had, and therefore they're tuning out. I can fully appreciate and understand that. So, you know, I hope I can turn around the content that make you guys want to tune in some more. So, on that note, I shall end this podcast with an appreciation for all of you who have tuned into the last podcast, the last couple of shows. You've got some blinks coming your way, so I hope you tune in for those. Hope you're keeping well. I hope you're all checking out some of the other content creators. I hope you're checking out some cool stuff coming out. Infinity War's out in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be great. You're also going to be getting a review of The Last Jedi, which I finally got around to watching, so I've got some interesting thoughts on that. Hopefully you're going to enjoy that as well. So please stay tuned. Take care of yourselves. Keep yourself. Check yourself before you rickety wreck yourself, as a way of trying to make this end on a cool note. Wow, do you know, I never do cool very well. Again, this show is not based on being cool. It's based on being me. So I'm going to be me here, people. Right. Take care of yourselves, and I will hopefully see you on the next episode of the Halcyon Podcast. I've been your host, Lon Risley. Take care.